Well, right around the time when we're all supposed to be thankful, news came out that Dylan Raiola might not be so thankful about his situation at Nebraska. CBS reported on Wednesday morning that there is some doubt about former five-star recruit and nearly 2-year starter for the Huskers returning to Nebraska next year. There's some doubt about him returning to Nebraska next year. We're going to cover it all and talk about the likelihood of Raiola leaving or staying. Please do like and subscribe to the Big Ten Huddle. We cover the entire Big Ten Conference and bring you information and analysis on the biggest stories and rumors that pertain to the Big Ten. We also push back on the SEC bias of the national media and how absurd they can be. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please do join us here. Comment your thoughts on the Dylan Raiola situation. Now, prior to Dylan Raiola's injury, we discussed this on a live recap episode of the Nebraska-Minnesota game where I said that Nebraska needed to let go of Dylan's uncle, the offensive line coach at Nebraska, Donovan Raiola. The tackles for this offensive line this year at Nebraska have just not been good enough. The interior actually hasn't been bad. I wouldn't say it's been like great or anything, but they've not been bad. But Dylan Raiola and TJ Lateef have faced a lot of pressure in the pocket. And while Raiola is to blame for holding on to the ball too much and his lack of agility in the pocket somewhat, it's not a winning combo to have somebody back there that doesn't have the most mobility and holds on to the ball a little bit more, and your offensive line doesn't do a great job of pass blocking. So, of course, just last week, Raiola's brother Dayton decommitted from Nebraska, which sparked some of the speculation from fans that Dylan could be on his way out too. The media made it sound like there is no connection to this, right? Believe that they kind of want you to believe that, but I do think the offensive line for situation for Nebraska plays a role into all this as well. To be frank, I fully expect Nebraska to be on the lookout for a new offensive line coach next season, and if that means Dylan leaves, so be it, right? I don't think a bunch of Husker fans want him to leave, but at the end of the day, one player is not bigger than the entire team. But we also need to recognize that the transfer portal is still over a month away. January 2nd is when it first starts. So last season, there were rumors about this as well. Unfortunately for Dylan, this is going to be the rumor every offseason because he played for 4 different high schools in 4 different years in high school during his recruitment. So, and for national people, a five-star that is not on a playoff contender outside of the SEC does not compute with them. Like, that just does not make sense. So they are going to automatically think, this guy should transfer elsewhere, and just have that idea and start snooping around for it and report if they even get an ounce of evidence. And also, Nebraska suffers the same issue that Ohio State does. Their fan base is huge, and a lot of clicks are to be had, whether they are angry or happy clicks. So this is new. So is this news real or just something the media is going to try to bring up every year? Well, this got brought up to head coach Matt Rhule as well on Wednesday afternoon, and I think his comment was very telling. I'll read it to you. He said, "I haven't seen that report. I haven't seen that. So I wouldn't know anything about that. I would never get up here and talk about a player, talking about possibly returning. I love Dylan like I love all my guys. I think he's here getting treatment right now. So I wouldn't know anything about that." And that was his whole quote. Honestly, this type of statement is classic deflection tactic that strongly suggests Rhule does know, or at least he's heard a credible whisper of this going on about the rumor, but chooses not to engage directly. Him saying, "I haven't seen that report" twice is textbook, like denial type of situation. It avoids addressing the rumor with Dylan isn't leaving or that's false. Coaches use this to sidestep without lying. If they've heard the gossip informally, they can technically say they haven't seen the report. And it's very possible they didn't actually see the report that day because it was reported earlier that morning. And while implying ignorance to it as well. If Rhule truly had zero knowledge, a more straightforward response might be, "That's the first I've heard of that," or just a flat out dismissal. No, not going to get into that. That would probably be better than this, in my opinion. Repeating it twice feels kind of performative and buying time to pivot to something else. Rhule's next part, he said, "I would never get up here and talk about a player possibly leaving." serves as a defensive barrier, in my opinion. Shut down speculation and follow up questions to maintain trust with his players about confirming or denying rumors. He then pivots to an affectionate reassurance stating, I love Dylan. I love all my guys, which humanizes the whole situation and shows his loyalty, though it subtly avoids addressing any specific tension by lumping Raiola in with the broader team as well. Finally, the offhand detail that he's out here getting treatment right now, that just kind of normalizes the whole situation, implying that there's routine involvement and he's not away from the team right now or anything like that. So basically, this whole statement reads as a coach who's aware, protective, and strategically vague with his comments, indicating he does know about the potential exit, but won't tip his hand publicly. But based on the statement alone, it's a tell for insider knowledge wrapped up in coach speak, which is fine. Listen, I'm not knocking Rhule for this response at all. I'd be doing the same thing if I were the coach, and I wouldn't want to be, airing my dirty laundry out there either. But I do think it shows there is some merit to the report. I do think there is some truth to the idea that Dayton Raiola also saw the writing on the wall with TJ Latif has performed, with the way he has performed. Excuse me, Trey Taylor is a special talent coming in right behind him. And so being sandwiched in between those two talents might not be great for early playing time. But does that indicate that this is what Dylan will do? I do think it does as well. Like, I think both things can be true in this situation, and I think Dylan Raiola is having to seriously consider his future next year. And what better way to seriously consider your future than to tell a reporter that you doubt you'll be at Nebraska next year? Maybe someone from Nebraska did say this, and that's how they got information on it. I think that'd be a terrible idea. I don't know why Matt Rhule would want anybody to say that. Maybe they just have loose lips there. If that's the case, I don't expect that person to be at Nebraska very much longer. But maybe someone did say something like that. But the wording for sure makes it seem like Raiola is trying to get his name out there, or he's heard from some schools and wants to continue to hear from more. So I don't think the CBS report is false. I don't think it's just something they're trying to bring up every single year. I don't think it's a sure thing that Raiola is gone either. Reports say that Nebraska has the NIL to battle with the teams that come after him, but I also think Dylan is probably getting or wants to be getting flooded with hearing from Miami or Texas Tech or LSU or Auburn. And in this time right now, I think that's exciting, and the idea of the grass is always greener. It's hard to turn down. But we'll have to see. Like I said, over a month until the transfer portal right now. Matt Rhule still has time to talk with Raiola and bring him back. And if the reports from last year were correct, they were able to keep him despite Raiola being close to entering the portal again last year. So we'll see if Rhule can do it again, and if they can be sure that they'll be talking about it. But you can be sure, I apologize. You can be sure we'll be talking about it here on the Big Ten Huddle. Comment your thoughts and what you think will happen and what you think Nebraska should do. Should they pay him? Should they let him go? Let me know your thoughts. Would love to hear them. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.